Hello and welcome. Today we're going to explore something pretty fundamental, what it really means to realize our own potential.
This reflection draws from the book The Solution. So the first core idea here is, well, kind of surprising. It suggests that potential isn't something you need to go out and find or acquire. The thought is that it's actually an inherent capacity, something that's already inside of us, just waiting to be expressed. So what is human potential according to this view? Well, it's definitely not something fixed, set in stone by your past or your circumstances. It's looked at more like a capacity for growth that emerges. And it emerges through conscious, sustained effort. So it's something that unfolds over time, not some predetermined amount we're all born with. Okay, so how does this growth actually happen then? Well, the idea is that it starts with a shift in perception. It's about looking at obstacles differently. Instead of seeing them as these big, scary barriers, what if we saw them as essential tools for our own growth? Each challenge then becomes this catalyst, something that pushes our abilities just a little bit beyond where they are right now.
And that really gets to the engine of how this growth happens. It's not about these grand heroic efforts that happen once in a while. It's really about the quiet power of small, consistent steps. Those daily improvements, even the ones that feel tiny, they compound over time. And that's what creates really significant, lasting transformation. The focus here is all about steadiness, not necessarily speed.
So, this whole idea of steady effort naturally leads to something really practical we can do every day, cultivating a daily aspiration. Think of it as a central practice, a way to give all those small efforts a clear and consistent direction. Now, for an aspiration to actually work, to be effective, it needs a few key things. It can't just be some passive daydream, right? It's got to be specific, something you can really picture clearly. It also has to be emotionally compelling, something that genuinely matters to you deep down. And it should be anchored in your own personal values, not what someone else thinks you should do. And, maybe most importantly, it has to be backed up by an actual, actionable plan.
And here's a really fascinating little insight on how to make those aspirations more solid. Apparently, the simple act of writing them down and then looking at them regularly has a hugely powerful effect. It's like it transforms this abstract thought in your head into a real, tangible commitment. It just engages our minds in a totally different way and helps keep our focus sharp.
All of this naturally leads us to look inward, to really examine the mental models we have that shape our sense of what's even possible. It's all about starting to challenge what we perceive our own limits to be.
So let's just pause on this for a second. What if those boundaries we feel, the limits we think we have, what if they're more like permeable membranes than solid brick walls? It's an invitation, really, to see our limitations not as these hard, objective facts, but maybe just as interpretations that we can actually test.
And the suggestion here is that so often our biggest hurdles aren't out there in the world. They're internal. They are these self-imposed restrictions we carry around. The ones that come from past failures, or maybe some negative feedback we got, or just from comparing ourselves to other people. Just recognizing that, that's a huge first step in moving beyond them. The key then is finding the right place to push those boundaries. Growth seems to happen most effectively in what you might call a sweet spot. It's that zone that's right at the very edge of your current abilities. A challenge that's tough enough to stretch you, but not so hard that it just becomes overwhelming and you shut down. Okay, so maintaining this kind of steady growth, it requires fuel, right? So now we're going to explore how we can move beyond just going through the motions, beyond simple routine, and start to cultivate a real sense of sustained inspiration.
Just think for a minute about the contrast between a life that's all routine and one that's driven by inspiration. A life of pure routine can start to feel a little draining, right? It can lead to diminished vitality, where your days just feel like a checklist of obligations. But an inspired life, that's marked by creativity and purpose. Every day feels more like an opportunity for discovery. It's a pretty fundamental shift in the whole quality of our daily experience.
So, how do we actually find that inspiration? The good news is it's not some random lightning strike. It's a capacity, something we can develop with consistent practice. And that can look like a lot of different things. Maybe pursuing new experiences, engaging with challenging ideas, or just getting out and connecting with nature. It could be taking on projects that really stretch our capabilities, or even just carving out a little time to reflect on what gives us a sense of meaning and purpose.
And this brings us to our final idea, and it's a powerful one. And maybe a little counterintuitive. It's about the wisdom of knowing when not to act. You could call it a strategic stillness. The foundational principle here is really simple, and that's deliberate. It's just this: not every situation warrants intervention. There's a real discernment in recognizing that not every single problem needs an immediate solution from us. Sometimes certain issues are actually best left undisturbed.
And this is where the concept of attention as a form of energy comes in. Think about it. Whatever we consistently focus our attention on, whether it's good or bad, it gains a certain weight, a psychological weight. The simple act of paying attention to something almost animates it, making it feel bigger and more significant in our minds.
And this is where the paradox comes in. By consciously pulling back the energy of our attention from certain problems, especially the ones we can't really control anyway, we can actually create the space for them to resolve on their own. In a way, we stop feeding the very thing that might be causing us all that distress.
Now, it's really important to be clear about this. This isn't about avoidance or pretending a problem doesn't exist. It's a strategic, conscious choice. It's something you do after you've really looked at a situation and decided that non-engagement is actually the most productive path forward. It's a kind of quiet release, allowing your energy and attention to flow where they can really make a difference.